I'm about as real as they come.
All my beats tailored by Joe. House Digital.
Maserati, Rick in Detroit. Convertible bird in Miami. Graduated summa cum laude. Strip club made a tsunami. Carlton Hines with the ball game. Grateful Edmonds with the snowflakes. Craig Pettis in the M-Town. Sal Magluta with the boat game. Falcone with the cocaine. Like Freeway Ricky with the plug game. Like Monster Cody in South Central. Larry Davis from close range.
This is the first time that the federal government has carried out executions during a lame duck period in 130 years. So there was basically a 17-year hiatus where the federal government didn't execute anyone. And then at the beginning of the year, the Trump administration restarted federal executions. And so far, tonight will be the 10th execution that the government has carried out in 2020, which is, far more than we've ever seen. It's more than the last 56 years combined. And basically what we've heard from the Attorney General is that it is the Justice Department's duty to carry out these executions. They feel that they owe it to the families of the victims and their communities to carry these out, and they're going to continue to schedule them. And at each of these executions, we've seen a small number of protesters who have gathered outside the Federal Correctional Complex in Terre Haute, Indiana, where the federal death row is and the federal execution chamber is located. And generally speaking, those are only a few dozen people. But what we did see with Brandon Bernard's case was different. We saw thousands and thousands of people taking to Twitter, saying that they were calling the president, calling the Justice Department, calling the Supreme Court, asking for a stay in Brandon Bernard's case. And celebrities like Kim Kardashian West coming out and saying, she spoke to Brandon Bernard shortly before he was executed, the day before, and kind of drawing attention to this issue, an issue that hasn't really garnered a lot of attention in the American public, although we do know that support for the death penalty has been down for years between Democrats and Republicans. Right now, the executions that are scheduled go up until just a few days before Joe Biden takes office. And it's really important to note here that the president-elect's staff has said Joe Biden does not support the death penalty. He's opposed to capital punishment, and he's going to work to end it while he's in office.
The government is railroading my son.
Screaming the government has railroaded her son, Richard Tipton's mother walks away from the federal courthouse. Tipton, James, Roan, and Corey Johnson, otherwise known as the Newtown Gang, have all been sentenced to death for murders they committed to carry out a conspiracy to sell crack cocaine in the city. Prosecutors thought the penalty fit the crime. Defense attorneys spoke of appeals.
But it's the appropriate sanction given the extreme level of violence that they brought to the city of Richmond, given the fact that there are 11 dead bodies that they've left on the streets of the city.
With that many murders and the allegations that were going on, I mean, you could have put Mother Teresa at that table with those defendants, and she'd have been convicted of something.
For these students from Henderson Middle School, the excursion to the federal courtroom started off as a field trip. But after two of the defendants turned to them and said, "Stay in school and away from a life of crime," the trip turned into a lesson of life.
If they say something to you, then they sometimes don't want you to end up like they are, because they don't want a lot of people, especially young minorities, to be like them.
I think, they spoke the truth. If they did something bad, they won't want us to do nothing bad.
The long-awaited sentences in the federal Newtown Gang trial have been handed down, but according to officials, they can't be carried out. That is until Congress rules on a method of execution. In Richmond, I'm Jay Ariano, WTVR News Channel 6.
Corey Johnston was just executed for killing 7 people in Virginia's capital in 1992. His lawyers fought for the execution to be stopped because they said the lethal injection would cause him excruciating pain due to lung damage from his coronavirus infection last month. He was the 12th inmate executed at the prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, since the Trump administration restarted federal executions executions after 17 years. Dustin Higgs is scheduled for execution today, the last federal execution scheduled before next week's inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden. Biden suggested he would put a stop to the federal death penalty once again. Katie Johnston for WJZ.com.
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb ties. We on our way to VA with it. The capital, Richmond. Shout out to all my niggas in the 804. The old VA get in the comment box, 757-504-434. 804, however you want to handle it. You already know how we rocking. Now, today, we are going to be covering a group of gentlemen by the name of the Newtown Gang. And they were based, like I said, in Richmond in the Newtown area, which is, by all accounts, a low-income area. Anybody from Newtown, y'all get in the comment box. If y'all was around in 92, 93, definitely we need y'all down there. Now, the gang consisted of 3 members. It's going to be a gentleman by the name of Corey Johnson, another gentleman by the name of James Rowan, and another gentleman by the name of Richard Tipton, who they allege was the leader of the gang. And at the time, they said that they were pretty much part of an organization that came down from New York, and they were coined the New York Boys, and they were attributed to at least 10 murders. They all received the death penalty in a federal indictment that said that they were protecting their enterprise by murder, their crack enterprise by murder. They would go up to New York to get the work. They said they ended up in Richmond. First, the organization moved to New Jersey, and then it would move to Richmond in 1991 because Tipton's stepfather lived in the area. And they would wreak a bloody tale of havoc, and primarily in 1992, and really at the beginning of 92, starting at the top of the year. And according to authorities, on January the 4th of 1992, Tipton and Rowan drove a gentleman by the name of Douglas Talley, who was an underling in their organization, to the south side of Richmond because they had a problem with him for mishandling the drug transaction. Once they got there, they're going to say that he ended up being stabbed 84 times in the upper body and the head. And then they're going to have January the 13th, 1992. They're going to say Tipton and Rowan again went to an apartment of another Douglas. This time it's going to be a guy by the name of Douglas Moody, who had been suspected of being a rival in their drug trafficking, or in the area that they were drug trafficking in. And they're going to say Tipton shot Moody twice in the back after Moody fled by jumping through a window. They're going to say Tipton and Rowan pursued him. Rowan ended up catching up to him. He was armed with a military-style knife. They're going to say he would go on to stab him in the front yard of the apartment 18 times, killing him. Then we're going to have the very next night on January 14th, 1992, they're going to say Rowan and Corey Johnson and the third person who's not mentioned retrieved a bag of guns that they had at an apartment. And they located a gentleman by the name of Peyton Johnson, who was said to be another rival dealer at a tavern. After locating him, they're going to say that Johnson entered with another person, fatally shooting Peyton with a semi-automatic weapon. Then you have a few days later on January 29th, Rowan pulled his car to the corner of an alley. He would end up getting out of a vehicle and approaching a guy by the name of Lewis Johnson. They're going to say that Lewis Johnson had threatened him because he was the bodyguard of a rival drug dealer. So at that time, Corey Johnson and another guy by the name of Lance Thomas would get out the vehicle and would open fire on Lewis Johnson, killing him. So those killings all happened in the month of January. It wouldn't be long in February. We're going to go to February 1st, and that's where Corey Johnson and Lance Thomas, they were also with Mr. Rowan, and they had gone to the apartment of a guy by the name of Torrick Brown. Now, Brown had been having trouble with Rowan, and Johnson and Thomas armed themselves with weapons and preparation of an altercation. So they're going to say that the three would knock on Brown's door and ask his half-sister Martha McCoy if Brown was there. She would summons Browns to the door, and then they would say that all three of the individuals would open fire with semi-automatic weapons, killing Brown and critically wounding his half-sister. Now, in late January of 1992, they're going to say that Corey Johnson was threatened for he threatened an individual by the name of Dorothy Armstrong, for not paying a drug debt that she owed. She would go on to move with her brother by the name of Bobby Long. They would end up tracking her down, and they would end up shooting her along with her brother. So it was just a rageful organization. You got to think this was early 90s. A lot of times when I cover especially these crack organizations in the early 90s, you really would not understand how much money was changing hands at that time, how vital a block was. And that kind of led to the seeds of violence just across America, but it really, really hit hard in Richmond. Richmond was at one time the nation's murder capital, and that says a lot for being in the middle of Virginia, for dudes to come down here with murders. And it is just as expected, because in VA, you're going to get the death penalty. You're not coming down here. Well, a lot of times, you won't even get to kill half as many people as the Newtown Gang, or the so-called Newtown Gang, because I'm sure that's what the authorities named them for the area that they operated in. It looked like they called themselves the New York Boys, but even like, who knows? That could be something that been put on them, because it looks like they were bringing the drugs, and they primarily came from the New York area. Now, Corey Johnson would end up being executed in spite of having COVID, and a lot of the people that were against the death penalty or capital punishment or lethal injection said that that was merciless, because with COVID he would be going through excruciating pain. I did see that Tipton and Rowan were in Terre Haute, Indiana, where they hold federal prisoners that are scheduled for the death penalty. And in the presidency of Donald Trump, he would execute far many more federal prisoners than any of his predecessors. And that's just outrageous. And what his statement was, the families of the prisoners that committed these crimes needed to have closure. They needed to be, I want to say in a sense, rewarded. Not to say that you could be rewarded by someone else's death, but that was his stance on it. I want y'all to get in the comment box to let me know what y'all think about it, man. If y'all was in Richmond at that time, definitely need y'all down there. Y'all need to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Y'all hit the bell right under this video to know when this real Trill Spill shit is dropping. Y'all definitely make sure y'all tune in. It's your boy Pops, the Mobb, Ties.